go, 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 go. See, a lot of y'all don't even realize that that's actually the next part of that song. But welcome to the script. I am your host, Isaac Paul, and this is the Unfiltered, the Unscripted, and the Unapologetically Real. Each week, the script dives headfirst into stories shaping our lives. From the headlines lighting up your feed to the love dramas unfolding in your DMs. Powered by real talk and raw perspective, this live experience blends culture, commentary, and community with a pulse on what matters now. Whether it's politics, relationships, or the internet's latest hot mess, we're breaking it all down with insight, humor, and just enough side-eye. This isn't just a show. It's a front row seat to the conversation you didn't know you needed. Now, before we dive into tonight's topics, I want to take a moment to shout out our incredible partner, blackdoctor.org. Now, if you're not familiar, blackdoctor.org is the leading health and wellness resource for the Black community, reaching millions every month with culturally relevant content that empowers, educates, and uplifts. Their mission is simple: to make health and healing more accessible by speaking directly to the unique experiences of Black families. From chronic illnesses to mental health, nutrition, self-care, blackdoctor.org is about taking control of our well-being with information that we can trust and voices that look like ours. I'm proud to be a part of this platform and bring to you the script every week in collaboration with BDO. Because in a world where everybody's talking, we're committed to making sure that you hear what actually matters. So, man, let's go ahead and get into it. It's got quite a bit to discuss, so I'm gonna just dive right in because this is gonna be kind of thick, right? One of the things that I want to also share is that we are streaming live, and I'm streaming live through a couple of different locations. So if you are watching this on TikTok, then I'll be able to read your comments, but I'm not going to be able to bring your comments up to where we can read them on the screen. But if you are watching on YouTube and Facebook, I want you to feel comfortable with typing a comment. I'll be able to see it and I'll be able to bring you right into the discussion, right? So it doesn't matter. Like, I'm streaming through like 6 or 7 different locations right now. So even if you are one of 3 or 5 in that particular room, feel free to go ahead and jump in and make a comment. I'll be able to see it and I'll be able to pull your comment right up on the screen and kind of interact with you. I want this to be as interactive as possible. If you are viewing this on either Instagram or TikTok, I can see the comments, but I may not be able to interact with it directly, right? So still go ahead and engage, right? Go ahead and share this screen, this stream, regardless of where you're watching it, stream it, share it. The more people, the merrier. If you are listening to this after the fact, hopefully you enjoy, right? So up first, right, we are going to tap into some shit you should know, right? So first up is some shit you should know. You might have seen this floating around your feed. There is a teacher, right, that she is saying that Gen Alpha is over texting, like done with it. They're FaceTiming, they're calling, they want to see your face. Now, is it a return to authentic connection or just another way to control the conversation? I want us to talk about this, right? But we are going to start this with the video.
Texting is cringe. They're over it. I just finished up my first session with a group of 8th graders at a local summer camp where I'm going in a couple days a week to teach them about modern etiquette, right? So today we did first impressions and we talked about digital first impressions and digital etiquette. And we got to the topic of texting. And what they said to me blew me away. The majority of them said they would rather call or FaceTime their friends than send a text. Like, when I talked about texting, they were like, like, it was like I was talking about sending a telegram, all right? And when I asked them why, I was like, so what's the deal with texting? They went into different reasons that just made me feel so optimistic for the future. One of them said that it's so much easier and faster to tell a story or like relay humor or gossip even when you can hear tone on the other side of the phone. I was like, yeah. Another one said it's faster to tell like a story than it is to like text it all out. And then another one said She's smart. She was like, well, I just don't like the evidence it leaves behind. Like, if I'm going to tell you something that's, I don't want your parents to know, and I know they're going to like look through your phone, I'm not going to write it out. Like, I'd rather just call you, because then no one can say that I said what I said. And I was like, you got it. That's why burner phones exist. I think the pendulum has swung. I think kids are craving connection over convenience. It reminded me of this article that I read in The Atlantic. There were these families, I think it's like 10 or 15 families up in Maine, who installed landlines at their house, like old school phones, okay? And it was because they wanted to take smartphones away from their kids, but they still want their kids to be able to communicate with each other and with their friends. And what was funny is that one of the moms in the article talks about how her son at first had no concept of how a phone worked. And so he was screaming into the phone, like, are you home? And by the end of a few weeks, those kids who were screaming into the phone at the beginning, they were coordinating their own play dates. They were better listeners. They could engage in conversations with their grandparents, and they were polite greeters. Like, it just changed their entire communication muscle. And really, when you think of it, for us older millennials, and anybody older, of course, but so much of that really does get strengthened in making those phone calls to your friend's home, like home phone landline. Think back in the day, I'd have to call my friend. Hi, Mrs. Ciccone, is Nicole available? Can I talk to her? And then you code switch, right? And then you talk to your friend. And actually, one of the girls today brought up code switching, and I was like, yes, let's talk about that. But we'll talk about that later, because that is a big part of etiquette too. Part of it is that I think the kids are all right. And so I'm curious, what's your experience? Do you have younger kids? Are you finding the same thing to be true? Are you an educator and who's around younger kids? And do you think that's true? Are they craving connection over convenience?
She seems very optimistic, right? I hope she's telling the truth, right? Because I mean, you never really know. And in hearing that, there was a piece of me that was like, you know what, this actually makes sense, right? Because that is the thing about life that I think sometimes we have a tendency to overlook when we're in the present moment. When we're in the present moment, it's hard to see the forest for all the trees, because you're in it. So you don't get that bird's eagle eye view where you can kind of see the full context of whatever it is that you're experiencing, right? And I say that to say that history moves in cycles. So we have a tendency to see history repeating itself. Even just with like everything that's happening right now politically, as unfortunate as it feels to feel like you're getting snatched back into like the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. There is a piece of it that's like, well, this is kind of how progress operates, or how balance operates. It operates like a pendulum, right? Where it vacillates. Sometimes I think we think balance is doing all things at the same time, balanced and even. But in reality, I think balance is more like a pendulum, where it swings hard to one side, and then the way that it attempts to balance itself is by swinging to the complete opposite side, right? And if you are on that other side, then it feels like the worst experience of your entire life. But it's going to swing back. And that's one of the things that I think we have to keep in our mind, so that we don't go off the deep end and feel like, oh my God, this is never going to change. This is the end of the world. And it's like, nah, if you look at history, this has happened like 10 times already in the last century. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not surprised to understand that Gen Alpha is kind of ditching the more less interpersonal forms of communication. You know what I'm saying? And kind of wanting to get back into, I guess, what I would call the old school. Because when you think about it, this is kind of like the old school a little bit. And that did make me feel good to just know that that was a thing that people was engaging in. Because I don't know if you all heard, but like apparently this generation that's here now, and then I think even like the tail end of millennials, they said they not fucking. That's what they said. They said they are not having sex as much as their predecessors, which is wild, right? When you consider like these apps and how easy it is. You know what I'm saying? Like you would really think that it's like mad easy to just get it in. But even though it's way more accessible, people are doing it less. And that in and of itself is a very fascinating conversation, right? As to like the reasons why, and how sometimes the more available something is, the less valuable it is. It really does say something about the laws of supply and demand, and how scarcity makes something a little more precious. So as much as we want things, it's almost like you appreciate it more when there's less of it. You know what I mean? Which is, man, I'm telling you, I can go down a rabbit hole with this in terms of so many things that we desire right now. And it's like, if we had it and we had it in abundance, the reality of it is that we probably take it for granted, right? Like I can give you an example. I was thinking about this the other day, like oxygen. Like think about that for a second. Oxygen, right? Like you're not thinking about that. The entire time you've been listening to me, you've breathed a couple of hundred times. A couple hundred times you've breathed, and you've probably never given any conscious consideration to the fact that you are breathing right now. You don't even think about it. It happens involuntarily, right? And it's a given. It's a given. It's the thing that you do literally tens of thousands of time a day. And do you ever stop to just be thankful for the fact that you were breathing? And it seems so small, right? It's like, nigga, nobody care about that. I'm breathing. Okay, you want to know when it becomes important? When something removes oxygen, when you cannot breathe. I promise you, there is nothing that you are worrying about in your world right now that is more important than the thing you do 10,000 times a day. You do this thing 10,000 times a day, and it is the most important thing in your world, and you probably never appreciate it. But let something take that breath away. Let you have a heart attack, right? And you can't breathe. Let you be suffocating. In that moment, the next breath is the most important thing. You ain't thinking about no bills. You ain't thinking about no bullshit drama that you going through with an ex, right? Anything that you are stressing about in your world, I guarantee you it is nowhere near on the importance of breathing. And we ignore it, right? And so, it's yeah, we have a tendency to overlook the things that we have in abundance. You know what I'm saying? And I think that scarcity makes you long for it, right? It makes you appreciate it. It makes you recognize the value. And I think that this new generation, man, they probably like, coming up where texting was the norm. They probably like, man, like that's weird. You know what I'm saying? like I kind of want to get at them. They right there. I kind of want to vibe. And I'm like, oh man, that is good to know that this is a cycle that we're just not going to become drones. You know what I'm saying? That AI is not going to get people into this weird ass space where they can't even copulate anymore. You know what I mean? Because like, how are you going to populate the earth if y'all never even see one another? That is a form of population control. See, look, I'm about to go down the rabbit hole of like some conspiracy shit. Now, this is how I was feeling, right? Like this was my thinking. I'm thinking like, man, I'm feeling all good. Everything like, yeah, Generation Alpha, they doing exactly what they, supposed to be doing. And then you go into the comments, right? Like the comments always expose that what you thought was really wasn't what it was, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and just go through some of the comments that was underneath this post. So someone was like, teacher here, they can't read or spell. It's not optional. So a moment ago, right, I'm giving all of this credit, right? I'm giving all of this beautiful props, you know what I'm saying? So maybe they returned it back to, what was once pure, what was once beautiful. And as it turns out, it's like, nah, man, these niggas can't read, man. It's easier to talk. You know what I'm saying? So maybe they are going back to an earlier time, but not pre internet, like no pre-written word. Some caveman shit. Like, yo, that is where we are at right now. Okay, here's another one. Teacher here. I love it how they always start off with teacher here, right? Like that's like the low-key flex. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw that out there. Teacher here, so that validates what I'm about to say. Teacher here. it's because they can't read or write. You genuinely seem excited, but I'm here to tell you, children today prefer not to text because they are lazy, not because they crave human interaction. Ugh. You hurt my heart, man. You hurt my heart. Like I just built this beautiful utopian space, right, where people wanted to interact. You know what I'm saying? And you like, nah, man. As it turns out, they can't read or write. All right. Here's someone else said, I think kids don't know how to write or spell, so they opt for calls. Oh my God, you guys are so brutal. Someone else was like, elder millennial raising a Gen Zer right at the cutoff here. My son is 15 and he talks on the phone all day. He would literally be FaceTiming a friend and have his phone in his pocket walking around the house. It reminds me of when we used to be on the landline at night after school with everyone on three-way, not talking about anything, but just talking about everything. See, I think that's another person that's thinking about the situation nostalgically like I am. Someone else said, I was telling my daughter to pack her iPad. We're going on vacation. And she said, no, mom, I'm not bringing my iPad. Then I'll spend too much time on it. And I want to enjoy myself and have fun. Most days she has a good balance of reading, dancing, etc., and not on her iPad. And so I'm okay with her using it. But this response caught me off guard in a good way. And my hope is humanity, or my hope in humanity has been restored. She's 8. Okay, maybe, right? So, when I saw that, I was like, all right, maybe, right? Like, I'm not gonna go ahead and jump in and make it seem like it's either one way or the next. Maybe it's a little bit of both, right? Maybe it's a little bit of both, because I think it honestly could be, but I would not be surprised if we find ourselves getting into a space where, like, the older ways of doing things swings back around, right? So maybe not even just from a generational perspective, but maybe just from a cyclical perspective of right now, everybody seems to be really detached, but I think that we are longing for that human connection and that interaction. So, we'll keep that one up in the air. We'll see. Okay, here we go. Now, let's slide over to the comment section where logic goes to die, right? There's this viral video of some young white dudes decked out in full MAGA gear showing up for an HBCU trying to set up a debate table. Now, needless to say, it didn't end in a handshake. And when I talked about it in a Black Phoenix group, the comments sparked everything from it was just a hat to nah, let's get into why it's not just a hat, right? So I want to start with like showing the video because I don't know if you all have seen it, but it's actually something that's pretty interesting. And this will kind of glide us into the next segment, which is something that a lot of people are talking about right now.
Invaded our HBCU.
What is going on over here? You called the East primitive, but what? We created y'all knowledge. We created y'all science. We created y'all math. Y'all didn't do shit besides steal. Y'all didn't do anything to your. You guys didn't make shit. You guys touch children. You guys fuck.
Showing them the door.
We walking them to the door, y'all. I don't even know how they got on campus. We gonna figure that out, but I don't know. They need to get like a trespass, like penalty or something because.
Sending them off.
Tell him it's that boy. He thought he was gonna come up like Charlie.
Yes.
Man,
Yes.
yes.
Say good job, TSU.
Good job. Shout out to my
Good.
Okay. All right. That's where we at. That is where we at. So I don't know if you all saw that, right? But that was, in the spirit of Charlie Kirk. Some people that are part of the MAGA movement decided to pull up at an HBCU and kind of wanted to set up shop, I guess, and debate, right? Because that's like the new thing now is that you got to sit up and you got to debate one another because without, us arguing at one another and screaming, I guess no progress gets made. So they pulled up, and as you all saw, the people on the campus, they wasn't feeling it, right? Like they wasn't having it. Now, before we dive any deeper, I'm curious to just even know, what your thoughts are, right? Like just sit with that for a moment, regardless of whether or not you all make a comment. I'm curious to know, like, if you have formulated an opinion, what do you think about that? What do you think should have been done? Do you agree with the actions of the students on that HBCU of being what some may consider intolerant of discourse? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about these young intellectuals being on a college campus that is supposed to be a bastion of free thinking, right? And challenging one another, because that is supposed to be what you go to college for. You're supposed to go to college to kind of learn how to think so that you can think critically. And how do you think critically if you do not hear all sides, right? If you kind of put yourself in a silo and you don't hear the opposing viewpoints, are you really growing? That's the thought that I want you to sit with. If we are going to view this from a purely intellectual space, right? Like, is this the death of intellectualism when we are not open to hearing the other side? So I just want you to sit with that for a moment, right? Because that is kind of what the foundation, I think, of people who are comfortable with that action and that activity. I believe that that is the frame of thinking that typically they have, right? So when I first saw this video, I saw it in a Facebook group that I'm a part of, and it's a Black Phoenix Facebook group, right? And so this was one of the groups that I joined when I first, kind of set up shop in this area, because I wanted to connect with the community, right? It's not a very big Black community here in Phoenix. It's growing, and once you tap into it, I think it's pretty legit, but it's not like some cities that may have a larger population where, there's like a Black neighborhood or a Black, area or just whatever. So sometimes people kind of feel a little estranged when they first move down here. And so I kind of felt like that was a good area for me to just keep with the pulse of Phoenix, especially since that was really how a lot of information was moving in the, just a couple of years back, right? And so, I've enjoyed being in this group, but Phoenix is a melting pot. And so because you have so many implants, you got a lot of different frames of thinking. And so it's always kind of interesting. I always try to, keep an open mind while I'm in this group. And so I saw, someone that was underneath that particular post that shared, let me go ahead and pull it up. So this was a conversation that I was having. You know what? I am too sloppy. Look at me. See, and I knew it was something that I neglected to do. Hold on, because this is actually important. So I am going to give me 1 second while I pull this up, because, I actually was kind of intrigued by, I think, this this frame of thinking. Initially it did kind of upset me, if I'm just being, very honest, right? Because it's almost like I've put myself in a space where, especially over the last, I'm gonna say 8 months, I put myself in a space where I've been protecting my mindset. You know what I'm saying? I've been protecting my spirit. I've been protecting my energy. So I'm not, and I think many of us have, like I stopped watching the news for a moment. I would still get some information from some sources, but like that being tapped in, I was like, okay, yeah, nah, it's going into a space now where this just is not good for my mental health, right? And even though you want to be informed, there are times where you have to understand what your limits are, right? You got to understand what your limits are. And so, it was even to the point where if I saw content that I didn't like, or from sources that I wasn't trying to hear from. That was quick to give you an immediate block. I circled the wagons, right? It's not that the wagons are no longer circled, but okay, now that we are all kind of, I'm not even gonna say that we are adjusted, but on some level, I think many of us have accepted that this is the world that we're in, right? And so now that we've accepted it, I think we are starting to engage. And the question is like, how do you engage? And so I saw this particular comment, right? And I was like, all right. So woman said, discord over a hat instead of conversation, very sad times we live in. That's not how the world works, right? And so, when I saw that, it was just like, all right, like, is that really how you feel? You know what I'm saying? Or is this just a part of, your thing or whatever? So I was just like, okay, didn't necessarily agree with that. But I was curious. So I responded and I said, discord over a hat is an egregious oversimplification, and intellectually, that. While I would have personally ignored them as I do all idiots, I don't mind the students making MAGA's presence feel unwelcome, the same way they would me if I took my black ass to a PWI with a Dr. Umar shirt on and wanted to have a civil debate regarding black liberation, right? So her response was, no, it's not. I'll say this. When we want folks to hear our issues and wonder why they don't, this is a prime example. We all have notions about each other. Some may think this group, or our bigots, I'm assuming that's supposed to be our bigots, or another group are bigots. Fear mongering at its best. Anything can be reversed and deemed indifferent. I said, okay. So, all right, I'm hearing that, right? And I'm just like, all right, I'm not really 100% on board with what it is that you're saying. You know what I'm saying? And just largely because I think, like, overall, like, holistically, I understand the point that she was coming from, but I just honestly feel like that's not where we're at right now. So I'm just walking you all through my thought process so that as I evolve this topic into the next conversation, you all can understand exactly how I see this, because this is pretty consistent. I'm trying to challenge myself, but I'm having a hard time determining whether or not this is a situation where I'm just right. I like to challenge myself, but there are some times where it's like, you don't want to get to a space where you just automatically assume that because you feel some way that it's above reproach, right? So I on an intellectual level, I like to try to remain open. So, my response to that was, okay, so let's ignore what we've seen, heard, and experienced about this political movement that has literally been doing everything in its power to erase our history and influence in America. What do you realistically think was their intention in pulling up to an HBCU? What kind of rhetoric do you think they would have shared? Do you honestly, in good faith, believe that their intention was to add value to the lives of Black and brown people on that campus? Because if not, then what valid purpose is sitting there having senseless debates with someone whose opinion about you is already ironclad? It's literally the definition of being an exercise in futility. So, in all honesty, that really is how I feel about it, right? And there are times where it's wild, because one of my best friends, who's also a business colleague, and we've spoken about this a couple of months back. I think we kind of tabled it because it's one of those situations that's a little bit sensitive to us both. You know what I'm saying? And in an attempt to preserve like our friendship, you know what I'm saying, we kind of tiptoe around certain things. But I feel like on a level, he was and possibly is a little disappointed in how firm I am on one side, right? And what I mean by that is, he knows that one of my gifts is my ability to be able to create bridges with people, right? That's big for me. That's pretty much what Tequila Tales is. Tequila Tales is me sitting in a room full of strangers and having a conversation, right? You're talking about anywhere from 60 to 300 people can be in this room at one time. And I don't know what you're going to say when you grab that mic, or how much what you say may enrage me or whatever. But my job is to attempt to understand it and weave it into this conversation. And the only way that I can challenge you, especially even if I agree with you, is I have to really put myself in other people's positions so that I can understand where they're speaking from. Like, because to me, that's the foundation of empathy, right? And so he's always felt like that was kind of like my gift, like my superpower. He's seen me wield this in moments where there's a lot of people disagreeing, and I had the ability to listen to what everybody's saying and kind of speak to it while still kind of centering the conversation in a way that allows us to move forward. And I'll acknowledge that is a part of my gift, because I don't like to be misunderstood. And so I go through great lengths to articulate my thought, but then in the same sense, I go through great lengths to understand people. You know what I mean? And I think he's disappointed in the fact that that's just not where I'm at. You know what I mean? And I'm even to this day, like I can have moments. I can have moments of understanding. I can have moments of grace that I extend. But this has been an incredibly hard one for me to see the other side, to embrace the opposing viewpoint in a way where I can have substantive dialogue, right? So, you got to know when you are in a space to be able to have discourse. Because if you're not, then that's when, you probably do need to just kind of peel back. The woman's response was, given I worked in mediations and learned a few things. One, you can't be emotional, hinders thought process. Two, sensationalism on a topic automatically creates discord. Three, listening instead of hearing causes one to think. And four, reasoning. Are you open-minded, insulated in one way or ideas of something? Do you belong to any group think tanks to conclude your reasoning? Schools are to learn and experience differences, not foster division and fear. You don't know one's intention without learning. When we continue same cycles, same results. Having an independent mindset is key in diversity, especially of thought. So, once again, while I'm not agreeing with this, right? Like, these are the types of things that sometimes I sit with, because I do like to challenge my own thinking and sometimes sit in uncomfortable places, because I do think that that's one of the things that at times are difficult for people to do, right? Like, it's difficult sometimes for us to like really accept when our way of thinking may not be ideal, right? Like, when our way of thinking, sometimes we might even be wrong and we don't care. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that that's this situation, but I'm saying that because of that, growth comes in our ability to accept feedback, right? So I'm trying to share this on two different levels of thought, on like not only what happened, but then also on sometimes the internal dialogue that I'm having as I'm attempting to, move forward, with some, frame of thinking as I attempt to assess whether or not the way that I see a situation is ideal, right? So, and I'm wrapping this up, right? Because, like I said, I know that this is quite a bit, and I apologize, for those of y'all that are watching this live with me, but I want to make certain that I am, in fact, articulating thought, because this, to me, was my version of like a debate, right? Even though it was happening online. So let me see. So she said, in normal times, everything you said. Oh, no, this is what I said to her. I said, in normal times, everything you said sounds logical. But to pretend that this MAGA movement has any credibility is peak cognitive dissonance. I don't have to attend a lecture from David Duke to see if he occasionally makes a point I agree with, when the entire basis of his ideology is rooted in my subservience. If they were attending in good faith, then they would have abandoned the MAGA gear. MAGA is peak groupthink. They literally worship a guy and refer to him as daddy. And you believe that in the spirit of independent thinking, it makes sense to patronize them? Showing up draped in clothing that they knew would elicit strong feelings shows their intention off jump, which was mostly to antagonize. It's one thing to be an independent thinker. It's another thing to subject yourself to activities that bear no fruit. And that's not emotion, that's hard logic. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, and attempting to have rational dialogue with people that do not believe in facts falls squarely in that realm. And so at this point, I'm really like tapped out. But the reason that I was engaging with her was because I could sense like, okay, she's not trolling. This is honestly how she feels, right? So it's one thing if I am talking with someone and I'm like, okay, you've thought about your perspective and how you feel about certain things. And, for those of you all that don't know, I'm a follower of astrology. And one of the things that astrology will teach you is just how different we all are. We all have different, very different ways of how we process thought, express emotions, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't necessarily make one person's way superior to another person's. It's just different. You know what I mean? It's just different. And sometimes that's how life is. Like, we're all very different. And when we can find ways to understand one another, then we're able to bridge the gap, right? Because to me, truth isn't that sometimes, there are many times that we do, but and sometimes we don't have to all agree on certain things, right? And so I try to give space to individuals who approach a situation differently, at the very least, to be able to engage in intelligent dialogue. But as I just shared in that last, response, I have to be certain that you do in fact believe the actual thing that you're saying, and that your intentions aren't different, right? Because if your intention was to, you know, antagonize me, then in that regard, like, this is a done deal and there really isn't anything that we can, do. So just because I done took you on this path, I need to go ahead and wrap this up. Her response was, everyone is normal, just difference in views and reasoning. Many can say particular groups on a different spectrum are beyond cognitive dissonance, respectfully. Hopefully, in the end, the kids can learn you don't have to agree with everyone, but lack of listening without emotional response will create more discussions than less. That's emotional intelligence, and everyone needs to learn it. Now, listen, y'all, I already told y'all that I was done with the conversation, but you're not about to sit up in here and just drop that little tidbit like you about to just walk away on the mic drop. You know what I'm saying? Talking about emotional intelligence. You know what I'm saying? You can't just come to Tequila Tales, right? The creator Tequila Tales, and make it sound like I ain't got no goddamn emotional intelligence and not think that I'm just gonna give you just one more response, right? Just one more, because I was like, like what you're saying sounds like it makes sense, but not really though, right? But not really though. Okay. And so the final thing I said was nah, sis. Nah, sis, that's not emotional intelligence when it's not reciprocated. That's called Stockholm syndrome. To which she replied, things aren't always what they seem, respectfully. I've learned when judging outside of finding out reasoning, I was so wrong, and realized some benefit from division. I can also see your view. So I actually like the fact that we were able to just kind of adjourn. That was one of those let's agree to disagree, right? Like to be clear, we did not. She said I can see your point. She can see my point, but she didn't necessarily agree with it, right? And that's okay. That's okay. She doesn't have to agree with how I see things, right? because it is what it is, right? And you know, I do like the fact that we were able to engage, and that I got an opportunity to see how her thought process was. Now, keep in mind, this happened like last Wednesday, and in that exchange, I was like, "Yo, it's something here," like because this 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 feels that exchange felt like something that I think are two opposing perspectives, even inside of our community, right? And so there was a piece of me that was like, yeah, like, all right, this is something I want to address. And that was without knowing what was coming. But I will say this much though, and this is important just to acknowledge because literally the direct next day I saw this.
You're not coming in. Simple as that. You're not coming into our sacred spaces. You're not coming in.
This is sacred ground.
You're not coming in. You're not coming in.
Why not? Why can't I come in? Because I said you're not.
This is Larry Krasner's town hall at Mother Bethel Church at Society Hill.
Sacred spaces. You're not coming to our sacred spaces.
Where were all you? Where were you yesterday?
You're not coming in our sacred spaces. Simple as that. Because I said you're not coming in. I'm saying you're not coming in.
You have no right to tell
You're not coming in.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
You're not coming in our sacred space. You'll see what it is. I don't care. You'll see what it means to come up in here. You'll see what it means.
you'll see what it means.
Don't threaten people, Asa. We were trying to come to the event. You know,
He told him
they denied us
FAFO.
entry. They have a human wall. They have the blue wall.
That's what we calling it now. We calling it the blue. He told you. He told you, man. Look, you can try to pull it if you want to. Yo, he told you, man. You can try to pull it. You can try to pull up if you want to, but this ain't what you want, right? And so when I saw that, you know, and this is I literally saw that 24 hours after that exchange with the woman. And so I sent her one more follow up. I didn't bother screenshotting it, but I just told her, I said, hey, listen, I was like, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I didn't say it this way, but it was polite where I was just like, I'm curious to get your perspective on this. Like, do you think that they should have allowed them inside so that they can have an intellectual exchange? You know what I mean? I was like, and I'm seriously not trolling. I really just would like your perspective. And she's left me on read for the last 6 days. So I'm not even going as far as to say I won that, because it's not even about winning in moments like that, right? But I really did want her perspective, because see, to me, that goes into what it was that I was just saying, right? Like, if they were in good faith, then that would be one thing, right? But sometimes when people pull up, they're not really there with the intent of, you know, seeing whose point is the strongest, with the belief that they will consider, absorb what it is that you're saying. And when your point proves to have legitimacy and trumps theirs, no pun intended, they will then accept it and change. If they're not doing that, then everything we're doing is an exercise in futility. Them dudes that stepped up, that wanted, they weren't just parishioners that wanted to come in and just hear the word of God. We know what they wanted to do, right? We know what they wanted to do. So why would I put myself in a position where I'm giving you access to destroy something? Why am I putting myself in a position to give you access to disrupt? You know what I'm saying? Especially when I know that your primary objective is not something that's rooted or has any foundation in anything that's legitimate, in anything that's going to be progressive, right? Like, your only goal is to be antagonistic. Your only goal is to bring me down to your level. And see, that's one of the reasons of why, like, and I've been saying this for several weeks, especially since like Jubilee has been on a rocket ship and going to the moon, and it seems like every time we turn around, it's like 1 against 20. You know, I got to watch Amanda Seals holla at a bunch of coons, and it's like, why? She did not change one person's mind when she sat there. The only thing she did was got some views and some clicks. The only thing that she did was got content trending. And I mean, it's cool. I get it. If that is your product, if your product is content, then pretty much the only reason that we're all doing this is because of eyes, right? It's all because of eyes. If there's no tangible thing that's happening on the back end of this activity, then like I said, it's an exercise in futility, or at least that's just my perspective, right? Like, because if you really were engaging with these people and it really does change people, then that would be one thing. If that really was your intention in doing that, it's like, yo, I want to reach someone, you know, I want to pull someone back in, then okay, I can accept that. But if it's really just us going through the motions, I just don't understand how that's beneficial to us at this point. I understand why they want to do it. I know why they want to do it. It's because that's their entire identity, right? The whole own the libs is their entire identity. And when you give them access to you, that's all you're doing. All you're doing is giving them access to snatch you down to that space that they're at. What do they say? Misery loves company. That's all that is. And you are making yourself miserable by giving them the company that they desire. As much as we be pushing back from like what Michelle Obama said a couple of years back, when they go low, we go high, because we like, nah, man, sometimes you got to get in the mud, man. Sometimes you got to squab. And I do agree with that. But ultimately, what she said was the ultimate goal is to understand that when you get down there, you do get dirty, right? And at times you need to get dirty, but then there's other times, man, where you need to wipe it off, because before you know it, man, that becomes you, that becomes your identity, right? And that's just something that we have to be very cognizant of, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know, man, the stakes are higher for us, right? Now, this next segment we are going to call When the Bridge. I was telling you about us making bridges, and that's kind of like my thing, right? Is to attempt to make bridges becomes the battlefield, right? So this next one, man, you know, it gets into something a little deeper, right? Now, recently, Ta-Nehisi Coates and Ezra Klein had a very public back and forth. At the center of it, the idea that some people want to bridge divides while others want to say, nah, that bridge leads to nowhere. So the question I want to ask tonight is, when is civility just another way of silencing truth? And who pays the toll for the bridge, right? Who pays the toll for the bridge? So for those of you that are not familiar, Ezra Klein had Ta-Nehisi Coates on his show, and they had a very, very intriguing discussion just about like our role as it relates to, you know, this current state that we're in, right? And I guess more or less like, what is the cost of keeping the conversation going, right? That to me is kind of what was at the foundation of what it was that they were discussing. But you know, Coates was someone that, you know, calls things as they are versus Klein's appeal to discourse, right? But what I questioned throughout the entire thing is, because like I said, it was actually a very interesting discourse. You know, when I've been seeing people's feedback online, it's been heavily skewed that Coates pretty much was the heavyweight inside of that discourse, which I agree with wholeheartedly. But I think I was listening to it differently. And even that I thought was kind of fascinating, because initially, as soon as the interview dropped, within the next 24 hours, it was trending. And everybody in my feed, and this is on Threads, right? So these ain't even just people I follow. This is just the stuff that was popular. Everybody kind of, when they weighed in on it, they didn't really share their thoughts. What they shared was who they felt won, basically. It was all about kind of who they thought trumped who. Like, regardless of even whether or not I agreed with the point that was made, the voice that everybody was speaking from was as if it was a competition, a combat instead of an actual conversation. And so that kind of caught me off guard because like when I was listening to it the day before, you know, sometimes when I'm listening to content, I don't know if y'all doing this, even people that are listening to this in podcast format, where someone says something, I press pause. I press pause because I got to think about it for a second. I'm talking to the people on the podcast that can't hear me back, right? Because I gotta know. Hold on, how do I feel about this shit? You know what I'm saying? Before I just take in what it is that you say, I have to know, how do I feel about this? How do I perceive whatever this content is, right? And those of you all that are listening to this in podcast format, I'm a you know, challenge you or invite you to do the same thing. If you listening to me and something I say, you say to yourself, damn, that was deep. Yeah, nigga, go and pause it, rewind it, play it back 5 or 6 times, man. Sometimes the shit be coming off the dome and it be heavy, right? Like I get it. Don't just let it slide out. Okay, that's the benefit of it being on demand, is that you get the opportunity to pause and catch that gem. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not just here to say I'm dropping gems, but God damn it, every once in a while I do. And so when I do, what I'm saying is, take this opportunity to press pause and let it marinate, right? Let it marinate. We don't let nothing marinate no more, man. We don't let nothing marinate. It's like it's got to be this constant stream of content, you know? We just pumping it out, you know what I mean? And I get it, right? I get it, because you don't have time to rewind, right? Who has time to rewind? And that's stupid, because all my favorite songs, nigga, I'm playing them shits back to back, right? Because, ooh, that was good. That's one of the dangers of this streaming space that we're in. Like, I appreciate it, but the fact that we're in this day and age where people will stream like 16, 20 hours a day on some Truman Show, it's like, that's cool, but how much of that content is throwaway? It's throwaway, man. It's throwaway. And I get it, but ain't nothing better than just like, hey, man, tell me the piece that I need to be paying attention to. I don't need to watch 16 hours of it. Give me the best 5 minutes, man. I'll watch that. But come on, man. Anybody got time for that, man? So I'm saying that to say, if you watching it live, feel free to pause. I mean, not live, but if you watching it, you listening to it after the fact, press pause, man. Rewind. Like sometimes you gotta catch up, man. Sometimes you have to bring it in. But no, point that I'm making is, you know, inside of this discourse, I was just listening to it, right? I was listening to it. And beyond, yes, it's probably 8, 9 times out of 10, I was clearly agreeing with Ta-Nehisi Coates. But similar to the discourse earlier, like I said, I would make it a point to say, okay, it's not about whether or not I agree with him. Let me see if I can understand where he's coming from, right? And so when it came to Ezra Klein, I actually did understand where he was coming from, right? Now, the way that I'm wired, I obviously see things differently, but, you know, he's viewing things through the eyes of strategists, which is similar to like an attorney, right? An attorney is trying to win the case. Sometimes they don't even fully allow their morality to get into it, because if they did, then they can't defend everyone, because then it's about how they feel. And I'm pretty certain that some attorneys only accept cases that they believe in, you know. And even if they did accept things that they wasn't necessarily a fan of, or they thought the dude was guilty, they probably don't defend them nearly as hard. That's one thing about the system. I don't care how, you know, pure we try to make. If a person ain't invested in your freedom, yo, they gonna give you the public defender approach, you know, which is the baggy pants, the baggy slacks, you know, that nigga that just barely made it out of law school. Took the bar like 8 times, you know what I'm saying? That's what you get. But no, you know, I really set up and listen to what it was that Ezra was saying as it relates to, you know, sometimes you just feel like losing. I mean, you don't feel like losing. You know, you get tired of losing. And if you get tired of losing, then it's not always about what you want. It's about what you think you need to do in order to move these chains. And in all honesty, that is what politics is. while it may not be how we like to move, and by we, I'm talking about us, while it may not be how we like to move, because many of us do move from a more grounded, soulful, feeling space. That is one of the things that white people have the ability to do is sometimes detach and make cold, calculated decisions that are completely absent of how they feel. I think sometimes they don't even take an opportunity to even assess it. Now, I'm not saying that their feelings don't manipulate their actions, that they aren't important, just saying that I don't know if they are as connected to what your spirit and what your soul is telling you to do. You know what I'm saying? But this is the system that we live in. We do live in their system. So it don't matter how much we want to be like us. If we are going to move the chains and be effective inside of their system, then we got to understand the rules of it, right? And sometimes that is progress happens gradually, and you don't always get it 100% the way that you want. You know what I'm saying? There's always some compromises that have to be made. There's always some willingness to reach across the aisle, as they used to say. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's why sometimes it's difficult for us, because on a core level, that's not how we move, and obviously I have my preferences of which system I prefer. Again, separating me from the equation, I understand that this is what the system is, and being effective is sometimes having those kind of discussions about strategy, right? And that sometimes you got to make compromises. Sometimes you got to say things that you really didn't feel like saying, and then there are other times where things you really want to say, you can't say. And that's part of the whole Kamala Harris dilemma, right? And a lot of people are raking her over the coals. And it's like, on one level, I get it, because if you're going to hold the position, then you have to be willing to receive the arrows that come with bearing that mantle. And if you're not strong enough to take that heat, then you can't lead, right? Because leadership really is making a bunch of unpopular decisions, and not always knowing what's the best decision to make to forward the agenda. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the things that I think of. I always understand. That's how I've looked at Barack Obama, especially Barack Obama. But that's also really how I look at Kamala. Sometimes she's put in uncomfortable situations, right? Like, not only was she the VP, so let's be clear about that, right? Everybody always wants to hold her accountable. But what did you really think that a black woman was going to do in confrontation with an older white man that's been in politics for the last 40, 50 years and the Jewish head of Israel? You really thought that she was going to sit in the meetings and push back and be like, nah, we got to make a principled stand. And I'm telling y'all right now, we ain't selling y'all no more weapons. Y'all really thought her black ass was going to be able to do that, right? As a black person and as a woman person who also happens to be black, you really thought that she had that kind of, chutzpah and that kind of gravity where she could just throw that out there, and get her way. See, that's how I see the situation. And maybe I'm making excuses for her. Possibly. I just don't really see how she could have avoided doing it any other way and not being lambasted by everybody. There would have been a bigger target on her back if she had not done those things than the route that she did. And so it's kind of one of those, you damned if you do, you damned if you don't, situations. And so I say that to say, this is how I view politics. I know how it is that I feel, but I also understand, man, that this shit is more multifaceted than sometimes our emotions want us to feel like it is, right? So yeah, you can like Amanda Seals all you want to. She would be a horrible president. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, I'm just keeping it a buck. We might like the stuff she say, right? But inside of this system, you know what I'm saying? Nah, you're going to have to capitulate on some levels. But that's why she's not the president, right? Like, she's an activist. And so they have a different purpose. Their job is to push the limits. Their job is to push you into that uncomfortable space, right? With the awareness that where we settle is probably going to be somewhere in the middle, because that is what balance actually is. It is this pendulum that vacillates, man, that swings hard to either side. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that that's what sometimes makes it complex for me, even in terms of just seeing the full picture, is that there's never just this one pure way where you say, well, yeah, you should have done that. Because yeah, I know what my spirit might say. I know what I want to hear from people at times, but then I think, but how would that have played out though? How much longer would they have been in a position of influence where they can at least get you something? Because this train is moving in the direction that it's going to move, period, right? And so what you're trying to do is see, man, how much can we loot from this? Because this thing is already going in this area. You know what I'm saying? And I know this might sound like, again, I'm making excuses, but because as much as people say they want revolution, it's like, yo, you got to be ready for that. You got to be ready for that. I want it, right? But I want it in a smooth way, right? And that's not how revolution is actually going to look. Revolution is going to interrupt your Amazon Prime. Revolution is going to make a run on the grocery stores, and shit's going to get real dicey for a period, right? Because the entire supply chain is going to break down when you don't have government there to manage the apparatus. We saw what COVID looked like. Right? In terms of how certain people, even though they say like this is really dangerous shit, we don't 100% know what it is. But even until we figure it out, y'all are essential workers, the people who just happen to make the less in society. We really need y'all niggas to be out there, because we can't afford for society to grind to a halt, because then you got chaos, and even the pandemic ain't worth that. So we need y'all to risk yourselves. People ain't really ready for a supply chain breakdown, right? We talk about wanting these things, man, until you realize that the way we live in America, this consumer society, everything in your world is built off of this system already. It don't matter how revolutionary your ideas are. When you hungry, you want to go up the street to the Publix, to the Jewel, to the Winn-Dixie, to wherever else. You want to go up the street and be able to buy some milk and eggs. You ain't got no damn chickens in your backyard, right? These are the type of things we don't think about when we think about what a true disruption to the system looks like. Most people are not ready for that, man. Y'all are not ready for that level of casualty if the entire supply chain breaks down and you out here trying to figure it out without a farm, without a little militia protecting you, without your ability to live off the land. That is not the system that we're in. So you got to be realistic about what it is that you want. And do you really want revolution, or do you want to reform what it is that we have, right? On some type of level. And I get it. People are like, nah, man, you ain't no way to do that because the oligarchs and this, that. Hey, listen, I'm not saying I got the answers, bro. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying people that claim that they want a certain thing, are y'all thinking? Or are y'all just feeling, because y'all just think, yeah, we're going to overthrow the government and then we're going to be dancing, you know, like we in Oz and shit. You know what I'm saying? Can you feel a brand new day? No, nigga, you're going to be starving for weeks, bro. Yo, we had COVID and we were scared shitless that we wouldn't be able to wipe our asses with toilet paper. Because people went up in there and the first thing they did was like, I'm going to buy every roll of toilet paper. So even though the supply chain ain't broken down, just their fear of it caused a run. People going to panic. Dead ass, man. I'm telling you, man. It's Look, I'm going off a deep end now, you know what I'm saying? But this is where the revolutionary in me has to have a constant, perpetual battle with the realist in me also, right? And understanding that the things that I desire, I may be romanticizing on a level, because just living in America means that the majority of the life that we live, and I don't care if you in the hood or if you in Beverly Hills, there's certain amenities that we have become accustomed to that in some third world countries they do not have. Are y'all really ready for that level of change? Most of y'all can't not use social media for a day, and you think you ready for the revolution when telecommunications and all that shit breaks down. Something to think about, man. It's something to think about. And why am I saying this? Because those of us black folks that are in that position, we don't have time to, or we don't have, I'm not even gonna say time, we don't have the luxury of being such a revolutionary where we disrupt the system, knowing the kind of casualties that we'll have. Because that's what actual leadership looks like, is this responsibility, right? As much as I appreciate the role of the activist, they ain't got no responsibility. All they got to do is just pop off. All they got to do is just talk. They ain't never making no policies. They ain't never in charge. They ain't never got their finger on the button where they find out a month from now how many casualties occurred as a result of the wrong decision that they made. Everybody is not ready for that. You much rather just be the person to talk about how it should be until you actually get in that position and you realize, man, it's a lot of X's and O's. And as much as you want to throw the deep pass and the wide receiver catch it and it look beautiful, nah, sometimes winning is ugly, right? And small and incremental. It don't happen in some fail swoop, the precise way of how you want it to occur. This is what maturity looks like, but this shit ain't sexy though, right? Because if you listening to this right now, like it's like either you know this or you don't. And because I'm not, tickling that little part of you that wants to be a revolutionary, you're not ready to accept the reality of what it is that I'm saying and why policy is such a tricky game, especially when one of us gets up in there. Because we not only dealing with what we think is best, but we also dealing with the racism. Straight up, man. Shit. Straight up. So that's why anybody that's in that position, man, that's not like a whole ass, because there's masses out there, man. Like, daddy, I ain't even gonna call out names, man. But nonetheless, man, this next segment we gonna call Why You Mad? Okay, now here's a question that I've been stuck on. Why are the people who seem to have everything still so angry? Joy and Reed called it out. My girl said she thinks they're mad because they were lied to. You know what I'm saying? And one of my good friends made a post about this. And so it really caught me off guard because I was just like, yo, it started making all of these different thoughts and emotions come in my mind as it relates to not only does she have a point, but what really is the reason as it relates to why people are so mad. So I want to begin with actually sharing the post that my friend made just so that we can have appropriate context. So she says, so there's a video circulating with Joyanne Reed, she got it in the comments, where she's asking why MAGA people are so angry and if they are literally, if they are literally getting everything they say they wanted and voted for. She's sincerely asking, and many people have been having debates and trying to dissect all the different reasons as to why. Personally, I don't think it's complicated at all. They are angry because despite all the legislative changes, the one thing that has not changed for the majority is their day-to-day lives. Still struggling, still miserable, still ugly, and still where they were before they cast that ballot. Some are even worse off. That is why they are so angry. That is why the vitriol. That is why the internal fighting and perceptions of party betrayal. And that is why the screams are coming from inside the house. And then she said, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So for context, I want to share the video first so that, once again, you guys can share your own thoughts, right? You can press pause so that you can think about how you feel before I tell you how I feel.
Face. And as a country, if we don't start facing it and face that our problem is the right, not just the actual violence that they're doing, but the way that they're grooming young people to be violent. You won't want to talk about Black culture. You want to have a conversation about hip hop culture. Let us have that in the Black community. We don't need y'all for that. You need to have a conversation about what's happening to young white men. You must have a conversation with them. You must find out why they're so angry that they're picking up the guns you're letting them get, that you're making easy for them to get. And why are so many mass shootings happen? This is an actual serious conversation we need for our country. And this conversation cannot be done by Barack Obama. Y'all are not going to listen to him. It can't really be done by Bernie Sanders, although some of them listen to him. It can't be done by AOC. Jasmine Crockett can't do it. You on the right have to do it. And I don't know if there's a conservative who has the esteem of enough fellow conservatives to make that happen. Y'all ain't gonna listen to Mitt Romney. But there's got to be somebody that you guys are willing to listen to say that it's enough is enough. Why are y'all so angry? You have the White House. You have both houses of Congress. You have a Supreme Court that is completely obedient to your president. They're willing to give him unlimited power. They're willing to say that he can take SEAL Team 6 and kill anybody he wants. They were willing to affirm that. They're willing to say that ICE can racially profile anybody they want. The United States Supreme Court has said you can racially profile Latinos based on their accent or the way they look. You guys have everything you want. You have legal racial profiling. You've ended DEI. You've ended affirmative action. You get all the best jobs, even if you're not qualified. You can be a Fox Weekend host and be the Defense Department's Secretary of Defense. You can be Kash Patel and be a podcaster who wants to go to Valhalla and run the FBI, as long as you're conservative. You have everything. Why are y'all so angry? What the fuck are you angry about? You've banned all of our books. You've banned Black history. You banned the 1619 Project. You don't have to compete with women for jobs. You've chased them out of the military. You've chased them out of the senior positions in the Department of Defense. You've gotten rid of all the Black history in the museums. Museums are terrified. I have contacts that I'm talking to inside of the Interior Department, people who are running all of those spaces where you can go and see a Civil War memorial or something. The people who work in these places are terrified. They're afraid to tell the real history. The people who are working for the federal government are afraid to say the word Black. You guys have canceled Black scholarships. You're damn near, I guess, ready to get rid of HBCUs. Donald Trump just recently said they're not going to fund any minority serving institution. Y'all have gotten rid of that. You've gotten rid of help for Black kids to go to college. What more do you want? What are you so angry about? I go every so often, I go and lurk and look on X Twitter. Y'all are the maddest people ever. Y'all are so angry for people who have everything. Y'all said you want your country back. You have it. The rest of us are sitting back and trying to keep our peace and preserve our peace while you all are running the country.
Okay. As always, Ooh, big sis is cleaning up. You know what I mean? That's who she is. And so, when she said that, I think it was rhetorical, to be honest. And I respect the fact that she asked the question, because I think that was more of something for people to think on, right? She just asking white America so that white America can soul search and kind of hopefully figure that shit out on their own, right? But I would like to sit in that back channel conversation with her and whoever else to know how she really feel, right? Because I understand that once you ascend to that level, you got to be careful with your words. You know what I'm saying? You got to be careful what you share, because the higher up, the more danger that it is. At my level, man, I could fall and crash out, man, and I'm gonna just get scraped up. So, I can afford to be a little more reckless, which is what I'm gonna be, because I'm gonna give you the answer. That's probably what you want. You probably want to know, why are they so damn angry, right? Like, why are they so angry? And so I think that's a very fascinating perspective. And I'm going to play a clip in a moment where, ironically enough, a white woman answered that. Now, I don't know if she was answering her directly, but maybe she just felt it in the ether. And this was a TikTok that I just happened to see. I was like, boy, my algorithm be cooking. But I have my own thoughts, right? And before I play that clip, I'm going to share something with you guys. And this gonna get a little weird for a second because this is a clip from a movie, right? And I'm just giving you the important parts, so hopefully I don't get all kind of copyright flags. Because I'm telling you, man, it's it used to be the Wild Wild West, man. These algorithms know, like, man, did you just play 5 seconds of this obscure ass program that used to come on back in 1973? Yeah, man, no, we ain't gonna monetize that. I mean, they cool with you using it, but nah, man, we ain't gonna monetize that. It's crazy. But nonetheless, though, I don't know all the rules, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it anyway. Okay. But this is actually from a good movie. And to me, it's a classic. It's early 2000s. I think it's like 2003. And it's called Count of Monte Cristo. And this is actual literature. And they've made this movie like, I think 3 times, because it's come out again. They had a French version back in 2024, I think, that actually scored higher than this one. But this is the one that I remember. And it's got the folks in it that I know. So I want you to watch this scene, right? Because what you hear at the end is going to be more significant than the build up, but you still got to see it though, right? In order for me to sum it up in just a quote. I'm about to sum this up in a quote. Watch this. All right, so this way it's about to get juicy, right? So this is this guy right here.
I barely managed to escape. When we were on
so imagine coming to your
Napoleon
home.
Gave me a letter. I didn't tell you because he made me promise not to. Said it was just a note to an old friend, but the bastard
He's like, man, look, I was trying to help you out. I didn't want to tell you shit that was going to incriminate you.
Somehow the authorities found out. I don't know what to do. There's gendarmes on horseback right behind me. All right, I just have to think. I hope I haven't compromised you. I was hoping your father could help me.
He's in Paris. He's very ill.
How far back?
Okay.
Minutes.
Do you need money?
Yes, thank you. Do you have
All
a
right.
pistol?
You ain't got no money.
Of course not.
Good.
He just asked him, do you have a pistol?
Stop
He
it,
said, of
Bernard.
course
I don't
not.
have time for this.
This your homie. This your best friend right
Give
here.
me that letter.
It was you?
Well, it wasn't just me. It was Danglars' idea.
Why didn't you
Got
come
set
to
up
me
by the
first?
Well,
home.
why did you keep it a secret from me? I thought you were my friend.
I told you I gave Napoleon my word. He lied to me.
I know, Edmond. I read the letter.
Thank you.
Why are you doing this? Oh, it's complicated. Complicated.
Okay. So now I know you're a snake.
Don't be ridiculous. Get out of my way.
Right. So after you realize that the homie ain't gonna help you out, they go through this little battle scene right here. You know what I'm saying? Pop, 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 pop. But he ain't really a swordsman. His homie is though. So he kind of tooling them up. He tooling them up the whole time. Slice them up a couple times. He can pop them real quick. Bam. Listen to this. You can tell he getting his ass whooped right here. Pop, 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 pop.
Why? In God's name, why?
Because you're the son of a clerk. And I'm not supposed to want to be you.
Boom.
In here.
Boom.
Wait.
Then he had to do this part right here.
To remember better days. I told you it wasn't always going to be this way, Edmund.
Cold. Cold-blooded. Cold-blooded, Joe. Cold-blooded, man. Cold-blooded. Now, just very brief context, right? So, Count of Monte Cristo, you have Edmund, who is like a person of the lower class financially. His father was a clerk, and I think he was working on like a ship as like a ship hand. And the dude who obviously knew how to use that sword was part of the, I guess, aristocratic class or whatever they called that. He had some money. He came from some money. And so, spare you all the details. This is early part of the movie if you haven't seen the movie and you want to go check it out. But he, on a chance meeting, met Napoleon Bonaparte and got some information that he thought was harmless, passed it along. Turns out he got played by Napoleon, who kind of turned him into a spy. Message got intercepted, so it really wasn't even like a big bad thing, but now he's getting judged for it, and the authorities was coming after him. So he go holla at the homie, because he's just like, yo, I don't know what happened. I'm getting set up, blase, blase, blah. He's explaining himself like, yo, I want to tell you, but I gave my man the word, this, that, and the third. His homie was like, oh yeah, no, I saw that. And yeah, I read the letter, and I'm the one that told the authorities, so he realizes now that his homie sold him out, and now you are about to serve life in jail, right? Banished to some island to be tortured for the remainder of your life. Now, this is even different than like the Young Thug and what's my man name situation, right? Like this is totally different from that, because this ain't even we was all doing dirt, not snitched. This ain't even the situation of a snitch. This is your boy literally setting you up. Your boy is literally setting you up, right? He could have just shut up. You'd have been cool. This is your boy narking you out for no benefit, just because he want to see you go down. He wanted to see him go down, right? This is your homie. You've been hanging out with him for the greater part of your life, right? Probably would have gave your life for him. And he's the one that called the authorities, and not just so you can go away, so you can go away for good. Not so you can take the charge, he can continue to live his life. No, you going away for good. And I don't even get nothing from it other than the benefit of knowing you going away. And when he asked him, man, like, why? He told him, man, because you are the son of the clerk. You are a son of a clerk. And I'm not supposed to envy you, or I'm not supposed to want to be you. Crazy. I thought it was a dope scene when I saw it back in like 2004, but it feels like every subsequent time I saw that movie, that phrase meant so much more to me. And not even on some racial shit. Like, this is for everybody. There are times that you are looking up to someone. There are times where you are, really giving, really loving, really supportive of another person that from your own perspective, you may see them at a higher level than you. And what you don't know is that person envies you. That person secretly wants to be you. That person could honestly put you on, because they know the people that need to know the thing that you're doing, but they don't want to see you be more successful than them. You all's relationship exists on a dynamic where they want you to be subservient to them. They want you to be a step beneath them, right? Like that's how we roll. This relationship only works if I feel like I'm up here and you're right here, and we can go out and kick it, and we, I ain't even gonna make you feel that way, right? Anytime you have a bad situation or you in a tough spot, I'm even gonna be there to support you. But you better not get successful around me, nigga. You better not really try to climb out of this barrel, because I can't have you being better than me. And so I don't know if you've ever dealt with a situation like that, but that is a wild space to be in and sometimes sometimes some of you all may experience it on like large levels where somebody hate on you to a major degree. But then there's other times where it's like little microaggressions. It's little small stuff that you don't even peep sometimes because you overlook it. Because in your mind, you're thinking, oh, there's no way that they are, like the thought of them envying you never even crosses your mind. Because in your mind, you're like, man, they got everything, man, they got money. They're driving a nice car. They married to the so-and-so and so, and you just living your life. You happy in the space that you are, you trying to kind of level up a little bit. They got way more than you, right? Or just significantly more than you. And so you assume, all right, you in a better situation. Shit, I'm trying to be like you. Ain't that what we say? I'm trying to get to where you at. And little do you know that where they are at is not a space that's happy. Where they are at is not a space that's really as enviable as you may be building it up to be in your mind, right? There are times where we can look at life from a superficial lens and make this assumption that someone is in a better position than us because they have more things. They got more things than us. And so we in our mind say, well, then they must be happy. They doing good. Shit, I'm out here grinding. I'm living check to check. I wish I could be where they was at. I'm trying to get that monkey off my back. I'm trying to get that credit. I'm trying to get these creditors to stop calling me all the damn time. And they got a surplus. I know they Gucci. Not even knowing, man, the whole time, man, they looking at you, envying you, right? Jealous of you, knowing they could put you on, knowing they could make you better. But they like, shit, I'm jealous of you now. How I'm gonna give you the one up? How I'm gonna help you be better? And I'm already jealous of you. Straight up, man. Like, this is real. And this ain't even just me trying to like pat myself on the back or boast to you, because it really does come from a place of humility. Some of us just don't even see it because we're operating off of a different paradigm. We're on a totally different wavelength. So we didn't even know this was a competition. We thought we was boys. You thought that was your girl. And little did you know that relationship was a byproduct of the power dynamic. And the moment that you shift that power dynamic, they are no longer comfortable. I remember hearing, I think it was Simon Sinek had said that a lot of times we believe that our biggest friends are those that we can count on when we're down. Those people that we call and they support us when we're down. But there was like, honestly, a more accurate, metric are the people that you call when you're doing good. The people that you call when you had a major success. That's actually more indicative of who your real friends are. And that shit was heavy for me because I was like, damn. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a person that like grinds. It's like we all have success, but there's always this assumption that like when you come up or when something good happens to you, that the people around you are going to support that. And sometimes that can be one of the most jarring experiences to recognize that they are not, right? And just to have that innocence stripped where now your success has to be something that is experienced personally and alone. I can't celebrate this with people because I'm happy, and happiness is amplified when I'm around other people, right? So that is unique. But to bring it back to topic, that comment, because you're the son of a clerk and I'm not supposed to want to be you. That's the reason why they unhappy, man, especially as it relates to us. Especially as it relates to us. Because we are not supposed to be happy. We are not supposed to have the level of joy that we have. We are not supposed to have the kind of community that we have. We are not supposed to still be fighting, to still be competing, and to still be succeeding, considering everything that has happened to our people since we have been here. I don't care how much they try to tell you that slavery was X, Y, and Z amount of time ago. Do you understand the amount of weight that has been placed on you and your ancestors' shoulders? And the fact that you are still out in this bitch competing. They had to put Trump back in office, man. They like, listen, man, I know we was trying to do the dog whistle, but these niggas just keep climbing, man. Like we need to go old school. We, drastic times calls for drastic measures. We need to go old school. We need somebody like Strom Thurmond. We need an old school. We need somebody that might call him a nigger. Dead ass. I promise you, man. They like, yo, man, listen, man. We did the Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we did it about another 15, 20 times. And yet and still, they still dominate. Every time we let them in something, man. They just, can you believe they had the audacity to be president and be one of the best ones of our entire lives? Despite us hating on him. We didn't give him no leeway. We never really reached across the aisle, just every once in a while, because, we didn't want everything to fall because we got money too. But damn, we did everything to make him horrible, and he was still the best. That is literally, the adrenaline that courses through Trump's bloodline. Okay. Is he just wakes up and thinks about Obama. I think he's got in somewhere in his house before he lays down, he pulls out his iPad and he just looks at like a montage of dope shit that Obama did over them last 8 years, and it makes him feel real small and it makes him get really angry, and he wakes up the next morning, he's like, what else am I gonna take from them? Like, it don't matter how much they get. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got to see through it that we can never get there again. Dead ass, man. That's what it is, man. And convince me otherwise. Because why y'all so mad? Why are you so mad? Like, real talk, man. Real talk. Why y'all so mad? I know why you mad, but why are you mad, man? Whether or not y'all realize, man, most of us will be cool with y'all. Even if we, like, lightly made fun of you. Black people are the most embracing, accepting people on the planet. On the planet, man. When you consider everything that's happened to our people, everything that y'all have done, we are completely warranted to not even want to look y'all in the eye. I'm not even lying when I say this, man. And y'all might not want to believe it, man. Do y'all understand that some of your forefathers literally burned us, like cooked us? Consumed us, man. Like, for real, this is why they want to take all of this out of the history books, because if you really get a look at what them people did, man, we will be warranted to be enraged every day we woke up, and still we embrace y'all, still we give y'all culture, still we work with y'all. Like, dead ass, man. Like, that is, and y'all know that. Y'all know y'all supposed to be better towards us, man. And some of y'all are. I ain't gonna make it seem like everybody on that MAGA shit, man. It's a lot of y'all out there that's good. I ain't, and those of y'all that's on the good shit, y'all know that. Those of y'all that are even trying, even if you mess up every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? I ain't out here giving out badges or giving picnic invitations, but I'm acknowledge that there's many of you all that are doing the work, dead ass. Many of you all are doing the work. I see it. Not just with the content that you make, but the way that you all engage, the way that you use your voice, the way that you use your privilege. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And like, real talk, man, we know that many of y'all done had a rough hand also. Like, and again, Most of us are not even looking for much. We just looking for y'all to stop with the pile on. Stop with the pile on, man. Like y'all the ones that make it us against y'all. Like dead ass. And it's because many people need to have someone under them to feel value, because there's a void that exists. And if you have not done the self-work, if you have not done the shadow work to deal with whatever those emotions are, and it don't even have to be on some racial shit. It could be in some type of emptiness or void that you are feeling. If you go and actually deal with that instead of scapegoating it and making it about immigrants or making it about women or making it about Black people, own it. Like, what's really going on? Like, the frustration is legitimate. Point it in the right direction, bro. Point it in the right direction. It don't make no sense that Black people and especially poor white people ain't collabed up at this point. The only reason we ain't collabed up because many of you all's identity is built on superiority, right? I gotta be better than someone. And I don't want it to, as much as we say meritocracy, nah, because I be looking at some of them and it need to be something that I was just born this way. I was just born better. I ain't even got to try. I was just born this way. And it's like, all right, man, that's where we can't meet y'all at. We can't meet y'all at that. So that is my belief. That is my belief that is where the anger comes from. It's not even just about us. It's about recognizing that internal emptiness and almost having an unwillingness to face that, and having a group of individuals that tells you not to face it, but instead turn that frustration on some people that ain't got nothing to do with it. Ain't got nothing to do with it. And so anger powers your engine. And it doesn't matter how much you get. It's a void. You can never feel that. And that is why I don't sit up and debate. That's why I'm not going to placate to the nonsense, because what it is that you're dealing with is deeper than my ability to be able to debate out of you. I can't do that. That's got to be something that you want and desire internally, because it's got to come from within and then it comes out. That ain't something that I can do for you. I can't force you to grow. And I'm done attempting to validate my humanity or my worthiness or my ability to belong because of some internalized void that you have. So that's why I preach circling the wagons. We got to circle the wagons. We got to focus on us. And for those of y'all that understand the value that we add, for those of y'all that want this relationship with us, the doors of the church are open. They've always been open, but it's got to be open the right way. You can't be coming like the MAGA dudes was because you want to argue and improve your superior. Now, I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that. Y'all know who we are. Y'all know who we are. Stop playing. Stop playing. We are the culture. You know who we are. If you want to fuck with us, you can fuck with us because we fuck with y'all. But we are at our wits' end. We not at the space where we gonna keep playing this game. And the revolution is gonna be different than y'all think. It ain't gonna be a violent revolution. We gonna stop fucking with y'all. And that's gonna hurt more than anything else. Because that's really what y'all want. Y'all want the love. Y'all want the vibes. Y'all want the energy. It's time that y'all embrace it. Because y'all can keep pushing us away. And I'm telling you, y'all are lucky we so inviting. Because if we ever got to a point where we really did just circle them wagons and just stiff-armed everybody, if we really got to a space where we started gatekeeping the benefit that we add, if we started doing what Trump is attempting to do with his administration, if we did that with the value that we add to this world, do the math. Listen, whatever. Let me go ahead and move on, because this is, yeah, I'm not even trying to see. Look, now y'all got me on my revolution. Okay, here we go. We rounding them. We got a few more. You know what I'm saying? So listen, I want to talk about the Super Bowl halftime show, right? And not just the lineup. Bad Bunny is headlining. Folks are mad, not because of talent, because he don't speak enough English. right? We're still doing this. So it brings up a big question. What does it mean to be American? And who gets to claim the label how to fight? Okay. So, many of you all may know that, he secured the Super Bowl halftime show, but he is also one of the biggest global superstars. I mean, I'm talking like huge, and so it was just fascinating to see some people's kind of reactions to it. This was one that I thought was kind of interesting. Now, this is from DJ Vlad, right? And for those of y'all that don't know about DJ Vlad, he can be, we lovingly call him a culture vulture, okay? Because that is just the role that my man, tends to have in this society. But of course he had to weigh in, you know what I'm saying? Because, you can't just have some cultural, ethnic shit happen and the white guy not tell you how he feels. He said Bad Bunny headlining the Super Bowl is strange to me. I mean, I'm glad he's getting such a huge opportunity, but none of his songs are in English. And I don't speak Spanish. Most of the audience at the Super Bowl won't speak Spanish. Only 14% of Americans speak Spanish. So most of the television audience won't know or understand his songs either. I can see him doing a major event like FIFA or the World Cup, where there is a massive Spanish audience, but the Super Bowl doesn't make sense. It seems like the NFL is trying to expand its Latino audience at the expense of its existing fans. Okay. So, I found that to be kind of interesting because it's like, I get what you're saying on the surface, bro, but like, does it really matter what language they speak? I mean, how much of the lyrical content do you think the majority of the Super Bowl watching audience understood about Kendrick Lamar? Do you really think that they were like keyed into the double and triple entendres and all the, metaphors that he was throwing at that? Do you think they was really catching that? Or do you think they was just watching colors and hearing music and seeing people dance, which is what most people do, unless that's your artist, unless that's the person that you know? I don't even care if you a fan of hip hop. If you've never heard that before, if that was not something, if when GNX dropped, you weren't streaming it back to back to back, you was just watching the spectacle. That's how most people hear music them first couple times, right? That's why we listen to the beat and then we listen to the hook. Most people are not keyed into the lyricism. So does it really matter whether or not they speak English? Or is it something else, right? And that's really what we have to ask ourselves. And I know that sometimes that's not always people's intention, but sometimes it's almost like our, bigoted light views can speak before we have the opportunity to really consider the context of a situation. When that music is playing, ain't nobody really keyed in that much. And if this dude is so huge where he is literally one of, if not the number one artist right now, if he can be that big and not do the Super Bowl, then what are we? Because he's Puerto Rican. So he is American, right? So to be clear, regardless of whether or not you speak Spanish, why are we acting like there ain't a lot of songs that we've loved that weren't English songs? You know what I'm saying? Now, I get it. It's uncomfortable. Change is always uncomfortable. But, I found that to be kind of interesting because from what I've seen, it seems like the majority, not all, because we're not a monolith, but a lot of Black people have been embracing of this, right? Either because we listen to Bad Bunny or maybe because we just like, all right, man, listen, man, we've had quite a few, meaning like the past couple of years. We had Weeknd, we had Rihanna, we got Kendrick last year, man. We had Dr. Dre, right? In 50 and Anderson .Paak. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we've had enough. We're like, all right, man, let's go ahead and let my man Bad Bunny get one off. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's probably going to be the period I'm going to be refilling my drink anyway. And I'm going to pay attention too, because there's a good chance he's going to do something. I think he's going to take this opportunity to really put together something special. For those of you all that don't know, Bad Bunny made some augmentations to his touring schedule because of the fact that there was some concerns dealing with, just ICE and ICE's presence. And so he pivoted in a way that I thought was brilliant, but just saying that, like, he understands that this is bigger than just him taking this opportunity. And I, honestly, God, that was one of the reasons I thought he was like a dope selection. It also shows that NFL don't give a shit. Okay. They don't care. They know it's controversial. And they like, listen, man, a lot of people gonna be tuned in, right? Like everybody is into outrage marketing. They know that MAGA gonna tune in because they gonna hate watch it. They gonna watch it so that they can hate every single second of it and blog about it, right? So they gonna watch it for that, and then the rest of us are gonna watch it just to see how bad is he gonna troll this administration, right? And hopefully just love the vibes. And then a large portion that just really rocks with Bad Bunny is gonna watch it because that's they guy. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it is, right? It's that you don't get to win all the time. Like, I don't even like, I'm gonna be real. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what balance is everybody supposed to get a little piece here and there. So if this the one time in all of history that we had a super global popular phenom do the Super Bowl, all right, cool. Why not just compromise? Why not just lean in? Why does this have to be the end of all times, right? Now, there was obviously mixed reactions. This was one that I saw at the top. This was the one that was trending. I thought this was, in some instances, kind of hilarious. So a woman posted, "This is the Super Bowl halftime entertainment for 2026. His name is Bad Bunny, and none of his songs are in English. He canceled his U.S. tour in fear that his fans would be deported by ICE. I don't think the NFL is reading the room." Now, something that I want to point you guys' attention to, because there's this new terminology that I've seen like in the past, like couple of months. It's kind of hilarious, right? They call it ratioing, right? They call it ratioing. And what that is basically when you see the ratio between the amount of likes that a post has gotten versus the amount of comments that a post has gotten, right? And so, you normally see way more likes and way more engagement than comments. When people are talking about it, that's normally because, that ain't a whole lot of agreement, right? Like, don't nothing mix it up more than some conflict. So when you get ratio, oh no, man, they probably handy your ass in these comments, right? So this is like a little more than half. Okay, so he was getting ratioed, and so these are some of the comments which I thought was hilarious. One woman said, "When he says the word puta, just know he's talking about you." Another person said, "Damn, the room is kind of fucking you up in these comments, right?" Like, so okay, so that made me crack up. That was actually one of the first ones. That most people were commenting on the fact that this woman who had never gone viral before here, like this particular post had like 1.4 million views. And she just posted it 2 days ago. And this is on Threads. Threads don't go super viral. You get something to go 1 million. Yeah, all the threads pretty much damn near seeing that, right? So this is funny to me. Someone said, "Y'all misread the room last year too." Someone else said, "His name is Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. He didn't cancel his tour. He made his residency in Puerto Rico, Commonwealth of the United States, to promote tourism to the island and help the economy for the locals while teaching about the culture. I don't see why the NFL should have a problem with this decision. He is the #1 artist in the world. Let's say it together. Can't say America without the Rican." I ain't never heard that. That's actually kind of fly. Somebody else said, "He's an American. Good English doesn't have to be, good music doesn't have to be in English only. and football is enjoyed by people who speak many different languages. You're just a racist, uncultured, whiny bitch, but you'll survive. You guys, I'm not cherry picking these comments. These are all the most popular comments, right? Like, and you can go find this post yourself. This woman is getting lambasted. Someone said, I think the NFL is reading the room just fine, but you might be in the wrong room. Boom, boom. That's what we used to say back in the day. Somebody said, I'm an old white lady. Uh-oh, I love it when they qualify. I'm an old white lady. And I'm so excited about this. I've heard of Bad Bunny, but I'm so out of touch with popular culture that I couldn't tell you a song that he sings. This is great. This is a great learning opportunity, too, for me. You see, this is a me problem, and I'm about to fix it. This is funny. Somebody said, this is how you look right now. For those of y'all listening, it's an AI image of a frowning cracker looking at their computer. That's always hilarious. And then finally, someone had this one meme where it's one woman that is frowning and it says the original post. And there's like an acceptance, which is like the comment section. So, I mean, it's like, I kid you not, that is literally how the entirety of this post that had a lot of it. So I'm pretty certain that she has not keyed in. She probably like silenced the amount of comments on that post or notifications. What was hilarious, because I was curious, I was like, man, is this one of those Ezra Klein situations where we should have reached out and understood how she feels? You know what I'm saying? Like, should we have been a little more accepting, and created a bridge instead of like jumping in and doing that same thing that MAGA does? And instead of owning the libs, we gonna own the pubs or the repubs or whatever the hell they call themselves. You know what I'm saying? So I was curious. I said, let me see about this woman's character. And this is what she posted just 3 days ago. It says, protect the country from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And it's a screenshot from Donald J. Trump on Truth. It says, at the request of Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. I am also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you deserve to get your ass handed to you. Like, it was just, at that point, I was like, all right, yep, yeah, you deserve that. You deserve that. You know what I'm saying? I can't even front, you know what I mean? And what was hilarious was, just because I was curious, I went through 2 other posts of hers. People don't get enough just going to that one and talking a little shit. They then went to every other post of hers and decided, okay, in case you missed what I said in the viral post, I'm going to come under this post of your art and talk shit. Yo, we got to be careful, man. We got to be careful, because if we are not, we are becoming them. You know what I'm saying? But this is the space that we're at right now. This is the space that we are at. And we got to be careful, because as much as I believe in holding people's feet to the fire, I don't believe in that just anger for anger's sake. I understand that sometimes you got to get it out your system. I do. And I don't know if I'm fully out the woods of just like, oh, let me take the higher road, because I'm totally not. I'm not. And, I think I'm just in a space where I'm trying to acknowledge that I do get a little caught in this like fight that we do, and I got to get back to my blocking game, you know what I'm saying? And just like, man, let me just ignore, and not engage too deeply. Because like I said, I do think it is good to let people know, hey, I'm here and I'm taking up space. But it's another thing when you literally become the thing that you loathe. You know what I'm saying? And so, I'm going to say that again, man. That's something that on a personal level, I feel like we have to be cognizant of. Now, all right, I need you all to brace yourselves for this one, okay? Because 2 white pastors went viral for saying out loud on podcast that black culture violent, demonic, and incompatible with their church. And they tried to frame it as a righteous correction. Now let's call it what it is. It's pretty much racism from a pulpit, all right, and a podcast. So as always, I want to give you all the context, right, and let you all just kind of see this is something else that kind of caught my attention. And this is, now this isn't indicative of everyone, but this is something that, and they had numbers. So I was kind of curious to see, the way that this played out. So here we go.
Somebody was coming into our church and they're black, and would they be eligible for membership in our church? Yes, they of course they would. They'd be eligible for membership in our church. But would they be permitted to participate in, embody, and practice what I would call black culture generally in our church? The answer is absolutely not. Why? Because the characteristics that mark black culture as a generalization, in the same way Paul's talking about Cretans on Crete, they are evil, murderous, violent, bestial people. They steal, they kill, they destroy. They are sinful to the core. They have besetting sins that are like fatherlessness, sexual immorality. They molest children at a high rate. All of any criminal statistic that you could look at, almost pretty much without exception, they excel at them. Black culture.
And it's even interesting. I mentioned it before, but like the black guy on TikTok, he was saying, he's like, y'all crazy. Like, you talking about this person like it's mental health. He said, that ain't no mental health. That's a demon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of people are seeing that. Like, this behavior is demonic. To walk up to a white girl.
But yeah.
And to cut her
because she's white.
Because she's white, and be like, we got that white girl.
We got that white girl. And when you think about it, you look at that culture and you say, what are the besetting sins and characteristics of it? And then you say, could somebody come in a lawful church membership embodying that culture? No, they have to self-consciously repudiate that culture.
They ended it with the with the religious and the music. Ooh, like they just kind of purified it, right? I chuckled halfway through though, because I noticed that when they were attempting to, repeat what a black person had said, they had to try to go into their African-American lingo. Yeah, they kind of say like, nah, nah. Like, come on, dog. Like, you could have just said what it was that they said. You didn't have to try to give us your little light impersonation of how you think black people talk to make it more believable, to make this bullshit more believable. But it was just kind of funny to just hear them attempt to validate their claim. And someone's like, yeah, man, I got black friends all the time. And they be like, yo, dog, I'm super fly on the cool G tip. And I'm like, come on, dog, shut up. This ain't got nothing to do with what it is that you're saying, which is, more of the same, right? Like, it's more of like this whole Charlie Kirk space. And like they said, I laugh when people say, man, we need to get rid of these podcast mics, because it really does just allow everyone an opportunity to say anything. And, again, this is one of those things where it's like, you got to take the good with the bad. And that's the unfortunate, right? I think that what is, what's dangerous is just that you don't have more people holding individuals accountable, right? And I feel like in other times we felt comfortable with doing that. You know what I mean? And by accountable, I mean just like calling them out, you know what I'm saying? But it depends on, who your community is, because I can't call him out. He ain't trying to hear what I got to say. It's got to be from his family. It's got to be from people that's around him. It's got to be some revelation that he has, right? Like, I have to give him space to feel that way, unfortunately. And then I just have to determine whether or not that's something that I want to rock with, but this was something that did the rounds. And he obviously got a lot of pushback. He got a lot of people that, really challenged him, man, and had a lot to say about it. So much, in fact, that, of course, as a podcaster, right, who's in this space of getting attention, you ain't gonna go viral and come back and not capitalize, not hit you with a part two. You know what I mean? Because that was really what your purpose was, regardless of how idiotic the thing is that you say, you know it's stupid, right? You knew it was stupid when you said it, but you also knew that it might go viral. You also knew that it was going to get attention. And that was more important than the actual value of what it is that you said, because we're in a quantity society right now. They don't care about quality. They care about quantity. They care about how much you're churning out. You know what I'm saying? Can you hit me with something else? You know what I'm saying? Not are you thinking, not are you actually putting together the thing that is best. No, you got to get out more content. That's what we was talking about in the beginning. So this was his follow-up.
Clip from the King's Hall podcast where I generalized from the massively disproportional rates of murder, rape, fraud, assault, etc. in the American black populace to say that black culture has a violence and murder problem. For example, Owen Strachan has issued several statements about how troubled he is by my recent statements, building elaborate and hysterical straw men to set aflame for all to see. Others have responded with such pithy statements as, Charlie Kirk wasn't enough, clearly wishing for my death. If that's you, if you were offended by my recent post, let me give you a thought experiment to consider. Imagine a church in the U.S. with 100 men in membership. And of those 100 men, 65 of them were hood-wearing KKK members. They love to go out on the weekends and burn down black people's homes, shout racial slurs, and do some lynching. Now, imagine someone stood up and said, that church has a racially motivated violence problem. They should probably repent. Would you say that the man who issued a rebuke like that was an unregenerate heretic? A fool yelling rash nonsense? Would you bring up the 35 men in the church who weren't in the KKK and object to the generalization? Of course you wouldn't. But something like 65 black households out of 100 in America today are single-parent households. Why is that? Well, as Charlie Kirk put it recently, it's because the black women have divorced the black men and married the government instead. It's because black culture in its music and media glorifies sexual promiscuity. It's because there's not a strong social stigma against impregnating a woman you aren't going to marry in the black culture broadly today. Black fatherlessness is not an excuse for black culture. It's rather another defect of black culture. So may I make a lawful generalization from these data points about black households? May I issue such a rebuke in the hope that black Americans would repent of these sins? I think the answer is obviously yes. I think I can make a similar rebuke concerning murder, violence, fraud, rape, and many other besetting sins of black culture in America. In my own congregation, 99% of my time is spent calling my people to specific repentance for our own specific sins. We help our people walk through the besetting sins of our own peoples and families, repudiate them, and walk in the light of Christ rather than the follies of our forefathers. So before you shout at me about how racist I am, maybe pause for a moment and soberly consider the rebuke. I give it because I don't want blacks in America to be like this. I want them to repent, just as I want my own people to repent of their feminism, their abortion, their birth control, their abandoning of their children to government schools that hate them, and many other sins.
Yeah. See what I'm talking about? Like, it's, and these are the people that folks want you to sit up and like debate with. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't have time to sit and go back and forth with that. Like with that level of ignorance, with that level of a manipulation of data, of statistics, of not contextualizing this at all. You know, you're going to take a random data point minus all of these other factors that have to be considered into that, and then make a universal statement that doesn't even just sum up a subset of black culture, but attempts to say that that is what black culture is. The wild part is I'd hate to give him a news flash that culture is black culture, my nigga. Everything that you think is your culture came from us, bro. Literally. I don't even care what music you like. It came from us. Anything that you like in your culture beyond that real Nordic shit that we don't even rock with, right, comes from us. And so for you to make it seem like all of these bad and vile things are a direct representative of black culture, it's to call it an exaggeration, to call it a lie would be gentle, right? It's just like pure and utter idiocy. And it's like, okay, so at this point, most people will sit up and start like shooting down all kinds of statistics, and then also showing you about statistics in the white community, and even just showing you like how hypocritical it is for him to point out our statistics as if white people are not on par with us, as if they are some bastion of like righteousness. Like, seriously, have you all seen the stats of people that molest their children, right? Like, of people that assault women, of like rape? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. We're not going to conflate crimes that are typically done as a direct result of poverty, that is a direct result of systemic issues that we have absolutely nothing to do with, and then conflate that petty crime with the type of voluntary crimes that many of your people are guilty of doing, right? But we live in a world of hypocrisy. And so to me, I'm not even going to take this moment to make this an us versus them type of scenario, because there's so much about what he said that was just factually inaccurate, right? But it was for the intent of going viral, right? Like, they wanted to get your attention. You know what I'm saying? And again, that's why I'm not sitting up debating with people, because that's all they want is attention at the end of the day. They don't really want to grow. They don't really want truth. They don't really want you to like break down and give them some epiphany to where they see things differently now. You know what I mean? It's like, nah, this is a sport. And that's not how we move. And so that's not what I'm on. Now, I'm a pivot. And this might be a little dicey, right? Because this is not to validate anything that he said. But it is to say that what pissed me off about what he said was that he kept calling it Black culture. And to me, that is not what Black culture is. Black culture is so vast, it's so profound, it's so beautiful. You know what I'm saying? But it's also multifaceted. And it's not always proper, right? Like, there's some of it that's revolutionary. There's some of it that's meant to antagonize you. But if we are also going to be fair, there is a portion of it that is reductive. You know what I mean? And it has felt like, in many ways, we as a society, this ain't even just Black people, to be honest with you. I think this is a society thing. Society leans into that portion of it that's reductive. And so as a result, because that is what society has a tendency to exalt, because that's what they want to see from us, and that's what they invest in. Those are the things that society, right? Because keep in mind, when I say society, I'm talking about the larger portion of society, the people that move revenue, society, right? Those individuals determine that there's a certain type of way that they like their Black person. And that certain type of way gets a far bigger platform than the other kind of Black society, right? And so I'm going to do something that might seem a little unfair, and I apologize, and I don't want to I ain't trying to mess up nobody's bag, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just going to say this to point something out. Okay, it's wild to me that someone like a Sexy Red can get platformed and become way bigger than probably what I've ever seen Jill Scott get platformed. And I ain't talking about in our community. I'm talking about in society. Because see, Sexy Red is big right now, not just because Black people was platforming her and was like, oh, this is who we think is a representation of us. Not saying that we don't rock with her. That ain't what I'm saying. I mean, it's clearly a lot of folks that rock with her also. This ain't me attempting to be on some elitist type shit, but this is me saying that it's wild that an artist that is making a certain type of content always can rise to the top. But if you really did have some conscious artists, they get overlooked, regardless of how good the music is, regardless of how dope the beats are. You know what I'm saying? The person that's making that kind of music seldom gets to break into that other space where they become popular. Because see, this is all a numbers game at the end of the day. And with us being 13% of the population, like, you can literally have 100% of the Black community and you are still not going to be nearly as successful as if you just had 20% of the white community. 20% of the white community yields more financially than having 100% of the Black community. And therein lies the problem with culture, is that it doesn't matter who we like. It doesn't matter who we support. It doesn't matter who we want to platform. There's a ceiling. There's a ceiling of what they can get to, because many white people are not ready to accept the revolutionary, intellectual Black person. That's niche as hell. That's niche as hell. They'll accept that white. They'll take them. We see them all day long. You see the content creators that be white and shit, they be saying the same thing I see Black creators saying. They got 1 million followers, 2 million followers, 4 million followers, right? Because they are white. And they are appealing to a crowd that sees more commonality in them than my Black ass, right? So it's almost like it, on a level, it almost does not matter how great you are as a Black person. If you are not the version of Black person that white people want to see, they are not going to invest in you, which then means you are not going to have the same kind of bandwidth and resources behind you that another Black person that makes them feel a little more comfortable. I'm a little more comfortable watching Sexy Red than like a Rhapsody. Right. And again, not to pair these two sisters against one another, but I'm just saying, like, from the moment that a certain type of hip hop broke into the stratosphere, that was by and large where we've seen the industry lead. See, I came up at a time with Public Enemy. I came up at a time with Tribe Called Quest. I came up at a time where the biggest hip hop artists were conscious lyricists, right? Because all of us don't sell drugs. All of us ain't on the streets. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of how you all may want to create us and view us, that is not the majority of our experience. Is it something that's real? Yeah, it is. But that's not how all of us get down. You know what I'm saying? But there was a point where the industry intentionally started investing in a certain type of artist because they believed that that was not only what would be most popular, but I also think that that was a version of us that was more palatable. And we see it now, like I said, in the content space, because this has become a part of our brand, right? That's what you all perceive as our brand. So you, as a pastor, are saying that people cannot celebrate their Blackness because of a limited view of how you view us. You view us as one side of literally octagon. We got so many sides. Yes, is there a darker side of us? Sometimes, yes, it is. The same way it's a darker side of us. But that's y'all's fault of only wanting to exalt that side of us, to only wanting to acknowledge that side, as if our culture is not rich. And we know that. We know that as Black people, right? But culture is the gift that we give the world, and it's hard to monetize it. You all monetize it because that's what y'all do. And when you all decide to monetize it, you monetize the version of it that you want to see from us. And so that's how you view our culture. That's the problem. Our culture ain't the problem. It's the portion of our culture that you all tend to exalt. And that's what it is in a nutshell. If you look at the news, every time it's go to the Black story. It's all kinds of crime that happens. But literally for the last, and they've done studies on this. I'm not just coming up with this shit. They've done studies on the disproportionate amount of stories that you see from black people that have committed crimes towards white people. And it's not because we just create so many more crimes than you. This is what was being reported. And this is going back to like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. So yes, this is public perception. This is how you all perceive us, right? The people that's at the top, they know the truth because they get to see the numbers. But most of us are just feeding off of what we see. You know what I'm saying? And that's the version of us that you all feel most comfortable with, right? Because it makes you feel better. You don't want to see another version of us. That's why when you got Barack Obama, instead of celebrating him, you had to attempt to destroy him while exalting Trump. Don't think we don't read through the shit. That's all I'm saying, man. Like, we're going to call a spade, man. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I ain't got to get into the specifics, you know, but the one thing that I did pull from that is just saying that us as black people, I don't even know, you know, how we shift this, right? But again, man, that's what I, you know, when I talk about circling the wagons, man, that's what circling the wagons look like, man. It's not even about attempting to rule the airwaves. It's not even about attempting to convince the multitude or the masses of white people on our goodness. See, that's the old version of us, man. Like that's the slave mentality version of us, man. Like that's not who we are, man. That's not how we move anymore. You know what I'm saying? And you know, we are in a space now, man, where it's like, you know, yeah, man, we're not playing this game any longer. You know what I'm saying? So I was going to make a shift because I really, really, really wanted to talk about this Erica Kirk. You know, she's got new wind beneath her sails, and she's recently taken over the Charlie Kirk podcast. And, you know, it was there's been some speculation that people are questioning the level of grieving that she's doing. And I'm talking these white people, okay, from all ends of the spectrum. Some of them they are making some very compelling, you know, arguments. I thought it was pretty fascinating, but in an effort to save time, because, you know, I've had you guys for a good little period, and you know, I want to save some for next time. What I do want to talk about, and this is going to be where we close, is, you know, I want to talk about like the difference between like your world versus the world. You know, I've been having some interesting you know, experiences recently. Just even in my interactions, you know, I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona, which is a very fascinating space for just a couple of different reasons. But inside of some of my interactions, you know, on a business level, I've recognized that when I approach people, that there are times where there is a bit of apprehension, right? Some trepidation, because, you know, I got the antenna up, like many of us are. And by us, I'm talking about us black folks, right? Like, you know, you got to keep that antenna up, because you got to know who is it that you are interacting with, right? Like what version of person am I talking to right now? You know, can I trust who this individual is, or do I need to remain guarded? And so, you know, I've been pleasantly surprised sometimes when, you know, they've surprised me, which honest to God should not have surprised me, because, you know, I've long said that I consider myself the Warren Buffett of relationships. And this is not me bolstering myself. It's literally been one of the blessings that are a part of my life, is that I can be a magnet of like just some really good, incredible, dope people. You know, and I'm just talking about at the core. This ain't got nothing to do with how many degrees they have, how much money they have, just people that their spirit is in a good place. Like, I don't know if I just got strong angels or if it's good karma or a byproduct of even just what I'm putting out into the world. I mean, I don't, I feel like some of it is a little bit of me, but so much of it is probably stuff that's happened outside of me. Maybe it's my grandmama praying for me. I don't know what it is, but it really got me to thinking how important it is for us to understand that there is a distinction between the world and your world, right? And while they both have value, and at all times you need to be acknowledging what that value is, you have to simultaneously understand that they don't always mirror one another, right? Like, the world may be in a tumultuous place. You look at content online and it just seems like it's a lot of arguing and a lot of back and forth and conflict. But your world may actually be rather different, right? Like, your world could vibrate at a different frequency, meaning the world that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, based off of the energy of how you interact with people, you get something different back, right? Your world is different from the world. And I had to have that epiphany because I needed to make certain that I was properly honoring my world and not allowing the world to contaminate it. There are times where you can bring some unnecessary agents from the world, from things that you know is happening out there. You can bring that into your world and contaminate it, and your world ain't had shit to do with that. Those are not the relationships that you have. That is not your relationship with that person, right? That woman that you are interested in, she is not a byproduct of the nonsense that you heard from some dude on a podcast. That's not who she is, right? You got to understand that there is a very significant distinction between the world and your world. Because if you were not careful, you can contaminate one. So, this isn't to say operate in a place of oblivion, because I do think it is important to know the world. Like I said, I mean, I don't just walk out naked. You know what I mean? I do guard myself. I do have to have a discerning spirit. I do have to make certain that the individuals that I'm dealing with deserve to be around me, right? Sometimes you do have to be a little discriminating. And, these are things that sometimes people don't take into account. They don't take these things into account. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people pull into these spaces, and like I said, you can allow the internet to contaminate how you feel. And so now it's augmenting how you approach life. And so you got to be careful with that, right? Like, let's just say that your life is going good. Still have empathy. Still understand that other people around you may not be experiencing something that you're experiencing. So, now ain't the time to stunt. Now ain't the time to gloat. Now is the time to appreciate. Now is the time to look. How can you be of service? How can you add value to someone else? Right. But the reason that I'm saying it's important to understand the distinction is because you got to honor those things that are going right in your life. And it's not fair for you to feel guilty when something is going good, right? If something is going good, empathy is understanding that other people is understanding what other people are going through. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to discount those things that are going well in your life. And the flip is also true. There are other times, man, where it look like everybody else is winning and you in your grinding season, and you got to sit in that. You have to sit in that discomfort, right? You have to sit in that and not make what's happening internally within you. I got to throw up on everybody else's joy because I'm not happy internally. I got to make y'all feel like shit. Because the quickest way to make yourself feel better is by attempting to make someone else feel better, right? As a man soweth, that shall he also reap. People don't understand the importance of that, man. Like, the way to break that cycle is that you have to, as we used to say, become the change that you want to see in the world. As corny as it sounds, but it's real, man. I had to have that epiphany, and have that talk with myself when I realized that, man, be careful that because of what you see, this onslaught, because of how the algorithm feeds you content, that you are not allowing that to disrupt, you know what I'm saying, like, who you are and the kind of energy that you were supposed to experience in your world, right? Because that's how you are the best version of yourself. You know what I'm saying? So, that is what I wanted to leave you guys on. I actually had another segment, man. I told you guys to send me questions, if you wanted to, ask Isaac Paul. And even though I had you queued up, I'm looking at the time, and I've had you for a moment, so I'm gonna save those for next week. Next week is going to be heavily focused on relationships, right? And relationship building. Hey, if you got questions that you want me to answer, or that you want my insight on, feel free to email them, right? At IPaul at thetequilatales.com. Once again, that is IPaul at thetequilatales.com. And I'm going to be answering several questions next week, because one of the things that I do think is important while we're in this space is that we do get back, like that generation alpha where I began from, right? That we get away from this interpersonal version of communication. Like, it's a dope bridge. I'm not gonna shit on it. It's a dope bridge, but I do think that we lose and miss something valuable, right? When we don't get out, interact with one another, and build relationships, because that's one of those things, man, that, man, it really does not matter how much money you have. I mean, money is very important, but it does not matter how much money you have if your quality of life is subpar, right? And so it's like, we got to get back to the foundation. We got to get back to the basics, and we have to learn how to interact with one another again. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what the next episode is going to be about. We're going to be heavy on the relationships. Okay. Heavy on the relationships. But as always, you guys, man, it was a pleasure. You know what I'm saying? Till the next time.